Amy Thurman back again with 100 Days, 100 Emotions. Today we're on day 32 and we'll be talking about dread. Not something we look forward to, not one of those happy looking forward to emotions, but I think the perspective that you're going to gain today will be worth watching. So I'm excited to hear from our guest today and her perspective on this. If you have been watching these and have found them helpful at all, please feel free to share them so that others might find them as well. If you would excuse me, if you would like to be a featured guest, please reach out to me either through a message or a comment, and I would love to get you plugged in. I have several emotions that are still available, so we can definitely find one that will work for you. All right. If you have been watching these, if you have seen a few of them and want to see more of them, remember that it's the hashtag 100 days, 100 emotions. That's the number 100, streaming live on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. So let's hop into this and talk about dread today. I want to introduce you to Delisa. Delisa and I met on an internet platform that we both use for our businesses. We have never chatted before. This is our first time to get together. So I'm so excited. Thank you so much for being here, Delisa.
Thank you for inviting me and welcome everybody. I hope you enjoy the show.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I'm going to go ahead and pop this text up here as we talk about dread because I like to, part of the series is these emotions, making them, helping us realize that they're a normal part of life, that feeling them, not pushing them down, is part of being human and allowing them to do whatever they need to do in their body, and help teach us something is part of it. And so I like to kind of start with how it feels in the body. And so, feeling dread, it can be an intense and often overwhelming feeling of fear, apprehension, or anxiety about something negative or unpleasant that's anticipated to happen in the future. Just reading that, I'm like, oh, I know that feeling so well. Like, I have felt it so many times. And this may seem like something like you don't think of with dread, but in my world, at least I don't know how much you know about my story, but I live with a broken neck and I had to lay flat in the bed for 23 hours a day for almost a year, and had to fight my way back to being able to live, a semi normal life. But part of that, because of the brain injury, includes intense headache, like migraines. And so the weather here is not migraine friendly. I will just put it that. And I know it's coming. Like when I look at the forecast and I see the forecast, it's like I know that's what's going to happen. And so I tend to have a sense of dread about, oh, today the weather is going to be, not migraine friendly. And so it definitely is, it explains this, it's something unpleasant that I anticipate happening in the future. But I would love to know your experience with dread and what you have learned from it or what it has taught you.
Well, good on you for having the courage to fight back and saying, I am. I'm not just staying here. There's so much more to me than this. So you work through that dread, and so yeah, good on you. And to
Thank
anyone
you.
else, yeah, and to other people that are in similar situations, remember there's hope, and we're here to support you as well. And I remember, so I was in the military almost 14 years of my life. Then when I
Wow.
retired, yeah, long time. I went university, do all the things, traveled, and I remember when I was pregnant with my daughter at the time, I was doing like all the things to like build my confidence and everything. But the PTSD hit because when I
Mm.
retired, I did a tour. I did a tour, and during that tour, I was like, I'm done. I can't. I did my time. I'm finished. So going through those emotions of like anxiety, not sleeping, the depression, and the
Mm.
flashbacks, and like the unworthiness, and just dreading that. But leading up to where I was, like leading up to that point, um, prior to that, when I was in the military, I used to like dread the Mondays. And I was on the ship at the time before I tried, I ended up Navy. And when you're on a ship with people, it's like hundreds of people, you're in the middle of the ocean, you're going nowhere. You're seeing these same people like all day, every day. So you have, yeah, I know that.
Wow.
Yeah, it's very intense. This is why they say there are certain things it's not for everybody. The military is one of them. Um, and it's like you are going through that motions of like, I need to leave. I have to get out of here. But you cannot go, right? Because you're you're working, you're in service at this time, and like where are you going to go? So that experience was just that was like that first experience of real intense dread, and it weakens you. But because I was doing work on myself at that time and doing meditations and readings and finding these moments to instill peace, and at that time I was also in a leadership position, right? So I had to lead a team as well. So that all in itself is a lot to take in. Um, so I was taking care of myself, making sure my team was good, but still feeling that dread. So if anyone is has gone through that, or even if you're experiencing that, let us know because we are right there with you. Because it's normal for you to be going through dread, but then at the same time still fulfilling your responsibilities or your duties. And it's like some people they're going through depression, and but your house is like spotless and clean, and some people are they say some people might think otherwise. But anyways, fast forward now, I'm pregnant with my daughter. I'm experiencing this. Uh, and I'm thinking to myself, well, why am I going through this? So I seeked support, right? Additional support outside with a doctor, a psychologist. I didn't want to take medications. I had a young baby. I just gave birth. I had this young baby. And I started to revert back to the foundation that I laid for myself before I even knew what the dread was, which was releasing all the negative things that I was experiencing at that time, letting go, forgiving, as well as cultivating and creating the space that I needed to thrive and to grow, not only for myself, but for my family.
So good. Oh my goodness, that's so, so good, and it reminds me, like, because when I was laying in the bed, there came a time where you can imagine I was deep, deep, dark place,
Mhm,
way down
mhm,
there, and prayed to die, and
mhm,
then had this moment of clarity where I thought, "Maybe I don't have to die. Maybe I can try to fight to live,
mhm,
and if I get better, I can use my story to help other people." And it's exactly what you said. Like I couldn't see what was what was coming. Like the future to me looked very bleak because no one could figure out what was wrong with me. And so there's so much negativity going on in my head and in my heart. And I
mhm.
realized that's what's keeping me down. Like
Yeah.
that's what's happening is all of the negativity that was happening. And so just as exactly what you said, I started listening to Tony Robbins, Dr.
Yeah.
Wayne Dyer,
Yeah.
Rumi, all of those luminaries, pouring that in, just pouring that
Mhm.
in. And just that mind shift
Yes.
gave me enough of what I needed to fight to get better, to help find the path to lead me to where I am today. And so I love that so much. I do have this text too, because I
Mhm,
thought, oh, I got to put both of these up there and we can talk about this too. Because as you know, if you watched some of this series before, that not only do I want us to know how it feels in the body and help us to realize it's a natural part of living, but I also want us to realize that we can learn from it, that these emotions are there to teach us something. They're in the body, we have them for a reason. They're there trying to get our attention for some reason so that we can learn from them. And so what this says is that actually on the other side of this, that
mhm,
dread can actually pinpoint areas where we may need to develop greater self confidence or skills, and it can help us recognize an opportunity for self awareness and personal growth. So it can help us think outside the box or help us
mm,
see things, just like my example with today. It's a heavy day. My
mhm,
head is heavy, but I can see that coming. Like I am anticipating that now. I don't feel that heavy sense of dread as much in my body because I have figured out, okay, this is an opportunity for self awareness. I know how my
mhm,
body's going to respond. So I need to take steps beforehand to prepare for that. And so I know that before we got on here, you shared a story with me. I would love for you to share that, your experience with how dread can also be helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. And the story that I shared with you, it's with my daughter. And, so she was going to school and she was being bullied. Um, and she dealt with it, right? Because before she even went to school, I prepared her mentally, helping to grow that confidence, helping her to feel empowered to use her voice, right? Stand up for yourself in a respectful way, not just stand up and spew words, recognizing your words matter, your actions matter, your thoughts matters. So, it's all of these things, and we have that open line of communication. So if you have a support system with someone, that helps significantly. And if not, and you perhaps like have a therapist or a doctor that you go to, that is your opportunity to use that open line of communication to get that support. So that way, that foundation and preparation that you just spoke about a few seconds ago, that is what I was doing with her. Recognizing that she's going to encounter situations that I'm not going to be there and I can't solve. A teacher may not even be able to aware, and they can't solve because they may not even know what to do, most of them at that time, especially if they haven't heard it. Um, and so she was standing up for herself, and they addressed the situation. And then the boy, it's a young boy, he became more aggressive, not physically aggressive, but now he started to use threats. He started to threaten her in one situation, and she waited the entire day. She said, "Mom, I didn't say anything." But now she's living in that fearful space. She was dreading the moment this happened. She's like, "I sat there. I didn't know what to do. I didn't leave." And this is like at lunchtime, and she's eating her lunch. And I asked her, I said, "Faith, what was going through your mind at that time?" She's like, "I was afraid." And I'm
Yeah.
like, "But you ate?" And she's like, "I didn't know what else to do.
Mm.
It was lunchtime. He was saying all these things. The people at the table were agreeing with him. They didn't say they were going to hurt her, but they thought that he could do it." Um, and she's like, I didn't want to share with the lunchroom monitor, the teacher, what happened because I was so afraid and nervous and fearful that he was actually going to do what he said he was going to do.
Wow.
Yeah. So just like that fear, that dread can like keep us seated in a spot. And you mentioned earlier, like when before you started listening to the Anthony Robbins and Zig Ziglar and Dwayne Dwyer, you were there and you went down into that space, and then that moment came where it's like, hey, maybe you could help yourself. And then all of a sudden you started listening, right? Listening to these positive words. So she was filled with the positivity and the tools. She was equipped with it, and now she comes face to face with this situation, and now she's sitting still because she was like, I don't want to manifest it. She didn't use the word manifest. I'm using this word. She doesn't want it to come to fruition, and she waited until after school in the car to say this to me. And then I said, okay, well, it's the weekend. I, let the school know what was happening and so on. But then she says to me, Mom, I don't want to go back. And it was the
Mhm.
first time, and she really loved that school. Like she loved her teacher, she loved the school, she loved,
Mm.
her classmates and such. It's like I can't go back. I don't want to. I'm too afraid to do this. And that same student that's in her class, he's in some of the activities that she was in. She just outright stopped doing her after school activities, things that she loved to do. She stopped
Mm.
because she was so afraid. She just was in that space of like of she just wanted to be at home and be still, like just
Yeah.
and going down. And when she would talk about it like all the time. So now I had to, and part of this, as you're saying, that communication. What are we feeding in our brains? What are we feeding in our hearts to move past this, right? So that we can develop the greater self confidence, the skills, the self awareness, the growth. And my job as her support system, a privilege really for me to do this, was to say to her, okay, the more we put attention on what's happening, How is it that you are feeling? And then she's like, well, I'm crying and I feel bad. And I go, okay. And we're going to honor these emotions. But if we continue to speak about it and continue to speak about what he said, how is this making you feel? And then she would tell me, and I go, well, what do you think he's doing right now? She's like, well, it's a school day, so he's in school. I go, and what do you guys do in school? We were playing. So going through that scenario, and I go, do you think this is really affecting him? He's still in school. He has the opportunity to go to school, which that's a topic for another day. And
Right.
yeah, but you're here and you're holding on to it. And I'm not saying that it's not real or, what he said was right, but we have to now start releasing it, forgiving not only him but ourselves, because she thought what she did was wrong by just sitting still. And I said, no, you did the right thing, because you never know, right? In that situation, you did the best thing. Just in that moment, you did the best that you could. And so that's how we started that role of healing, and for her to not just be immobilized in that fear, in that dread.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I see this happen a lot. Like, dread can start, it starts as dread, but it can lead to so many other things in either direction. And
Yeah.
one of those things is shame, which
Hmm.
I see that's what's happened with her and with a
Hmm.
lot of other people, that it can lead to this sense of shame that I did something wrong, or I'm defective, or
Hmm.
something
Hmm.
like that.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to. It can lead in the other direction as well, which is what you encouraged and taught her to do.
Yes.
And it reminds me of what I do, with emotions like this that seem to get out of control, that are have an unknown tenant to them, where I just start telling myself what I know is true. What do I know is true right now about this situation? Yes,
Hmm.
he is in school. Yes,
Yes.
he is doing whatever he's doing, but what our minds tend to take us to places
Hmm.
that we don't know to be true, and
Hmm.
just being able to bring it back down to, this is what I know is true,
Yes.
and focus on those seems to help me a lot. And it sounds like that's pretty much what you did with her.
Yes, absolutely, 100%. And then once she said to me, "Mom, I forgive him. I'm not going back, but I forgive him."
Right.
And I want you, both you and your audience, to be aware that even though she was going through that dread, and even though she wanted to be home, I would still take the time at least once a week to say, we're going to do something, like we have to do this, or yeah, just so she can start getting out, just so she could get that fresh air,
Yeah.
and letting her know it's safe to be outside. It's not pushing anyone. It's not. It's just letting you know it is safe. You are in a safe space. You can, we can move past this. We can get past this. We can evolve from this. And I found that doing it in that sense, as well as listening to her, because I was like, you could still go to your classes, to your program. She's like, no, 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 I didn't want to go. She went once, twice. And then by the second time, she was like, I can't, I don't want to be there. And so we left this program. We found a different one where he wasn't. But yeah, that helped a significant amount, because now she's facing a fear. She's facing this, like, situation, as you said, like, that she was creating in her. The situation was real, the experience was real, everything else. But then all of a sudden now she was creating a whole other world that I'm not privy to, because I'm not in her brain. And
Right.
so when she is facing her fears in little doses, increments, that helped her to heal, to forgive, and to be able to now live her life confidently, and to be able to use her voice, and know that your voice is respected, your voice is heard.
Ah, that's so good. I mean, just thinking how blessed she is to have you there to help walk her through it, to help teach her that those emotions don't have to lead down a dark path, because
Mhm.
for the most people, that's what happens.
Yeah.
is the emotions like this, that dread that we think are, as we think of as negative or uncomfortable, if they continue, they can lead to a very dark path.
Mhm.
But she didn't have to experience that because you were there to help guide her. Now,
Mhm.
if you're watching and you don't have that, if you don't have someone to help guide you out of that, please know that you can dial 988 and there's someone there 24/7. They speak English and Spanish that you can reach out to, and they will help walk you through it, or they will help put you in the point you in the direction
Mhm.
of someone who can help you. So please know that that's a resource for you and that there's no shame in asking for help. That
Mhm.
is one of the things that I want to bring a put to that I want to mainly get across today is there's no shame in asking for help. That it's part of what we do. It's people like us, like Delisa and I, who are here to help other people. That's part of the role we play is helping others. And so we have to know when people need help to be able to help them. So please reach out to someone if you are feeling this way and if it's going down a path that's leading you somewhere deeper. So I wanted to be sure and point that out too. I know that I have been asking a question as we go through these. I would love for you to join our conversation. Tell us something that you dread. Sometimes those things can be things that we don't necessarily want to share. And so you don't have to share something that you feel uncomfortable sharing, but I would love for you to join the conversation in some way to tell us about your experience with dread. And if you have watched this before, that I use an AI image generator to create an image that represents the emotion of the day. And so today we're talking about dread. These are so amazing. Like, it blows my mind how accurate these things are. I'm going to pop it up on the screen and then full screen it. And then let's chat about this for just a second. Like, why did this thing pull up this image or this image for the emotion dread? It's just so interesting to me. Like,
That is interesting.
right? Like all of them seem to have these bright colors about them, but
Mhm.
some of them are muted. Like this one is brightly colored, but there's definitely a muted tone to it. You can see that.
Mhm.
And
What I
what jumps,
found Sorry, go
go
ahead.
ahead. No,
No,
you
you
go ahead.
I'm looking at it, and when we see something like this, we think of it as being otherworldly.
Yeah.
Um, and in that otherworldly, it means that, when we think of something as otherworldly, we think this is not of us. This is not on our planet. This is not within our being. And so if we look at dread in that sense, that's when we know it's not meant to be there. Like if it happens, we can
Yeah.
move through it, but that's why it feels so foreign to you, because
Yeah.
that is not an emotion that we're supposed to hold on to and harbor on for so long. And one of the other parts that I see is like it's like the shape is kind of like a volcano, and that whole
Mm.
eruption of the red and the yellows and some of the blue and going into the lava and the ocean that's there. But then you're in a city state, and of course there's the black surrounding it, right? um
Yeah.
Very, very profound image, I
Isn't
think.
it?
Yes.
That's what I'm saying. Like every one of these, that's one of the reasons I decided to incorporate these images into this series because it's like we can get a whole nother perspective on what this emotion is like just by looking at these images. To me, I my attention is drawn to that what looks like a dead tree in the middle, like that's right in the middle. And it helps me understand that when I feel dread, sometimes it makes me feel like part of me is dead, like it's numb, like with your daughter. She didn't know what to do. She was numb. She just sat there for fear of, what else to do. And I see that with this tree in the middle. So accurate. So
Yes.
accurate.
And isn't
Mm,
that interesting? Because normally we have the tree of life throughout, all these cultures and countries and everything. The tree represents life because we need the trees to breathe and stuff. And
right.
dread is a bare, burnt tree. But guess what? It's still standing. The roots are still in the ground,
Yeah.
though.
Oh, I love that. That's so true. it still has the ability to come back. I
Yeah.
mean, like, the roots are still there to nurture it. It
Yep.
just has to make that choice. Oh, so good. That's like I said, another reason I love these images because it presents a whole different perspective on things when we think about these emotions. Okay, so before we hop off here, Delisa, I would love for you to share with our viewers what it is you do and how they can get into contact with you if they would like to work with you.
Yes, of course. So I am an empowerment leadership coach. I coach parents, educators, and as well as professionals. And what I do, I teach you how to create space. I guide you through that process, not only for yourself, but for your family. And that part of that is boundaries, um, self care, confidence building, patience. So we go through all of these uh, emotions and stuff, and we lay the foundation. I help you lay that foundation and build a structure, build that fortified preparation. Now, when you start doing that, in turn, the ripple effect is it goes into your family. And so this is why I work with parents and educators. And so now it's starting to be absorbed through osmosis to your children. And then now the lines of communication, regardless if they're 0 or if they're 18 and they're going through whatever it is that they're going through. And this is something, and you attested to this in part in the beginning of the conversation, Amy, when you started putting on some encouraging words of inspiration and light and love and support, your mindset change, your environment change, your purpose change, and you got clarity and vision. So what I'm doing is helping you, my clients. I help you all like to make that shift, and it impacts your family. So whatever your children are going to, because that shift is happening, your environment changes. And so if they're walking into a home of kindness and peace, right, because that's the environment that you set, they're going to leave everything else that is not kindness and peace at the door. So they're walking in to like open up that communication. And we have an upcoming event. I have an upcoming event that's happening. It's called The Power of Cultivating Confidence. This is a free webinar that I'm hosting in my community, and it's 2 hours where I help you lay the foundation. I'm going to give you some tips and tricks to get started and implementing it right away, as well as we're going to have a Q&A because I want people to ask the questions. I want them to say, well, I've tried this and it didn't work, or I said the affirmations and it didn't work. This isn't going to work. Well, it's more than just an affirmation. It's more than just sometimes the journaling. There is a process to it, and it takes time. It's not going to happen. No one can guarantee you 24 hours, 30 days that the change is going to come. You will see changes, yes, but the real change is a lifelong lifestyle of it. It's you're continuously evolving.
Yes. Oh, so good. And I told Delisa before this, like, I'm signing up for that. Like, I want to
Yes.
know that. I want to come to that because it sounds like such great information. Like,
Mm,
all of us can benefit that from that. I mean, I already practice. I
mhm,
have a lot of practices in place that help me keep going daily, but I can always use more. Like, I never know everything. So I can
mhm.
always learn more. So I will take this link and I will put it in as a comment after we get off here so that you can just click on it and go there. But also, your website is faithandsparklesworld.com.
Mhm.
So if they want to know just more about you and how to get in contact with you, then they can just go there.
Yes, absolutely. So I'll give you guys a quick little rundown with Faith and Sparkles World. My daughter is the founder. She's 6 years old now, and she sells empowerment. Actually, she doesn't even sell. She just shares her message of kindness and compassion. Like that's what it is. She just wanted to share her message of kindness and compassion because when her grandmother, my mother, was sick with cancer, she was there, her and our dog Sparkle, supporting her, loving on her, wanted to take care of her, wanted to support her. And then she wanted to share how other children could be superheroes too, how other children can live in purpose too. And as a parent, I'm like, yes, great. let's see how far this goes. And so it expanded. So now not only does she have the books, but sometimes she gives talks. She talks about shifting environments, like, and her experience with bullying, and how she used kindness to actually gain friends, right? Even though she's feeling afraid and scared and stuff like that. Now, is she doing talks like a speaker? All no. This is like once or twice at, you know, some educational conference, only because she's such a young girl and she needs to be a child and enjoy life and live. Um,
Right.
but she does want to share the value and the importance of kindness. And I came in because after she went through that situation with the dread and the fear, she said, "Mom, I need a break. I don't want to, I don't." She didn't want to record. She didn't want to
Mm.
give an encouraging message, right? And so that's when, and but she didn't want to give up the company either. She
Right.
still wanted her message to go. She still wanted people to know what was going on. Um, and so I started to take a bigger role, and that's how my piece comes in. And of course, there was a need in our community as well, where people wanted to learn, how can I help my children? How can I support myself? And that's the journey. So the process for Faith in Sparkles World. Go online. Yes, you'll get all those information.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool. I didn't you said she's 6?
She's 6 now, so her first book was published at 3, the day
Oh my
before her
gosh.
4th birthday, with the official launch. Because, when we first started, this was written on my mom's her first 2 books, they were written on my mom's, dining room table. And it's just, it's so nice because at that time I recorded it on my phone, on my cell phone, just like as a memory. I'm like, this is where your mind
Yeah.
was at when you were this age. And then for her to say, she asked me to turn it off, but then she's like, I want this to be a real book. And I want this to go to other people. And why, like, how many, she would be like, how many books get sold? So she already was like in this purpose. But as I said, foundation and preparation was laid beforehand. And just in how to create that space, I shared with you guys that I teach about creating space. So I created the space when I was pregnant, did research, do all the things, and started implementing it after she was born. And I was implementing it on myself as well. Um, and I saw the growth. So it was a process. As I said, there's this lifelong process, but you will start seeing thriving not only in yourself but in your children.
Oh, I love that. There's something about children, like, they're
Yeah,
just so pure, they're just so honest. They don't weigh what they say, they
yeah, yeah.
just speak from the heart, and,
Hmm.
I love that. I can't wait to check out your website and to see what she has been up to and help support her in that way and you because I love
Yes.
this so much. So, so good. Oh, thank you so much for being with us today, Delisa, for choosing to spend the time with us and to share your experience with dread. It has been so, so good.
Thank you so much for having me and get in contact with me. And Amy, you know what? I am open to come back on your show anytime.
All right. Well, I might take you up on that. I
Yeah.
appreciate it so much. Oh, so good. Okay, everyone who is watching, thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. Thank you for commenting. Again, please share if you have found it helpful or think it will help other people. Please share so that we can reach other people and let them know that there is help available, that they are normal, that it's not abnormal to feel this way. And again, if you want to catch the rest of them, hashtag 100 days, 100 emotions. Until tomorrow, I'll be back with another emotion. Bye.